Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael
and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translate. Hello, my friends. How you guys doing? How are you? Are you still in your tryptophan coma from Thanksgiving and the holidays? Man, it was a 4-day weekend, and I don't know where the time went. It was like click, gone, just boom, just like that. Just kind of crazy stuff. But here we are, back into it. December 1st. Only 24 more days until Christmas. Yes, that's what it is, my friends. It was a fantastic weekend. I'll tell you all about my weekend here in just a moment. But first, let me line you up for what we've got going on today's program and throughout the rest of the week, quite honestly. We'll give you some details of what's happening. So in hour one this morning, we are going to be diving into some of the headlines from around the weekend. And there was some kind of, there's some hanky stuff going on. Hanky stuff. I mean, I don't know if if it has the appearance of impropriety, does that make it improper? That's going to be my big, that's going to be my big thing. Is it, it may not, maybe it isn't, but boy, it sure feels a little weird. We're going to talk about that. We're going to hit all the headlines and talk about all those things. Then in hour two, we're going to be joined by Daniel Cooper, who is getting a little bit of a head start on the big election season. Daniel Cooper, you may recognize his name as a sometimes writer for the Alaska Watchman. And he is running for office for the Alaska legislature. And I had been wanting to get him on the program anyway to talk about some of his positions and some of his stories he's been writing for the Watchman. And then it turned out that he's running for the legislature. He's going to be running for Justin Ruffridge's seat in this next go-round down here on the peninsula. And so it kind of was, I don't know, it was fortuitous circumstance, I think was the story, kind of what we're looking for. So anyway, we're going to talk to Daniel Cooper in, I think we're going to talk with Daniel Cooper here in hour two. Well, we are going to talk. I don't think we are. We are going to talk to him in hour two of the big show today. Let's see. Tomorrow is going to be Brad Keithley, Chris Story. On Wednesday, in my effort to try and lighten things up and bring some good news and some big stories, we have got one of the founders of Wheelchairs for Warriors is going to be joining us. She's going to be telling us about the mission of that organization and especially over the holidays, how that can help. That's going to be coming up on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, potentially, not locked in stone yet. It's been offered, but not accepted. We may be talking with Donna Arduin and Joe Geldhoff on Thursday. So that's the big news for this week. And then of course Friday's Firearms Friday. Now again, just giving you enough heads up to remember that the show will be on hiatus at the end of the year, as I have done every year for the last, I don't know, 12 years, 15 years. So starting on, so our last show of the last show of the year will be on Friday, December the 19th. And then we will be off on hiatus all the way through New Year's Day. And which would mean that the first show of the new year would be Friday the 2nd. And I'm trying to decide if I really want to just do one show for the week, although I'm going to try and take that time off there. I've got a brand new computer that I built halfway through the summer to help broadcast the show. And I was just, you know how you get hesitant to replace a piece of equipment that's working and you don't really want to, and then you're going to put a new piece in and it's going to cause, there's going to be some, I don't know. We might have to do it. And then maybe during my vacation, I'll do some broadcasts for the, Common Sense Corps or something where we do some private streams or something just to make sure that everything's working. So my plan is to swap out the equipment over the holidays, and maybe that will say whether or not we do that Friday, because it just seems like a tease to do one show on Friday the 2nd and then be off on the weekend again and then come back. Anyway, so remember, we will have alternate programming in Fairbanks and across the interior and down on the peninsula from December 22nd onward. So it was that'll be what's happening. But we're also going to again try to do some more lighter side stuff. We're going to talk a little bit today about Advent and whatever else we feel about. But man, what a weekend. It was epic in my household. We got a chance to see the prodigal son. He made the trip down from Wasilla for the holiday, for the Thanksgiving Day, and he brought his new girl with him. She is precious. She's so sweet. And we got a chance to see him sit down, enjoy a great meal together, just hang out. It was amazing. And then we had the turkey, and they made it back safely, which was crazy because the roads, just wow. The roads are crazy. We're going to get into that here in a second, but I'm giving you my weekend recap first. Okay. So for you, I slept a lot. I've been a bit under the, the problem is that when you burn the candles at both ends, pretty soon you got no more candle. And that's kind of where I felt like I've been at. I was talking, I guess for the last 3 weeks that I've been feeling I never get sick. And I had just been feeling under the weather and run down. Well, I slept like, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a night for a good 3 of the 4 nights. And it was, I'm feeling better, feeling like a little like it's all good, it's all good. But we're going to, we're going to keep that up. But anyway, the time just, click, just wham, whammo. And the worst part was, can I just tell you what the worst part was for my Thanksgiving? If I'm going to give you a worst of the best, got the best. The best was that the son was down, the boy was down, had the whole family here. And that was the best. The worst was there was like no leftovers. I don't know what happened. It was a 20-pound turkey. I went the next day to have a little bit of stuffing's gone. The green bean casserole's gone. There's still some potatoes, and there was like no turkey. I had to dig into there was like a little bag full of, not that I don't like dark meat, don't get me wrong, but there was a little bag of dark meat. I was able to make one turkey sandwich the day after Thanksgiving. And that was it. The leftovers were, what happened? Told my wife, I said, we got to have a second Thanksgiving just so that I can enjoy some more leftovers. Kind of crazy out there. So anyway, that was kind of my weekend, and it was just still too short. 4 days, and it was still too short. I don't know how that works. Well, I know why there was somebody just said no leftovers. How can that be? And Brian caught it. My wife made a to-go bag for my son and sent it off. And I have a feeling, because I didn't see the bag because it was packed in a big paper grocery sack. I have a feeling that a large portion of my leftovers went home with my son, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not bitter about it at all. I mean, I helped raise him, but I'm not bitter about it at all. So it was fine. It was such a good weekend, and I'm really looking forward to it. And it just means that we get to cook another turkey. I'm sure that there'll be a bunch of leftover turkeys this week, and I'll be able to go find one that doesn't cost me a second mortgage on my home. I mean, have you seen turkey prices? It was a 20-pound turkey, and it was $50-something for a 20-pound turkey. I'm like, wow, that was wow. All right. Anyway, so again, Christmas time, my friends. I've been listening to all the Christmas music. I've been trying to get in the spirit. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like this has been a crazy year, and here we are, all ready to go. But there was some crazy stuff that happened over the weekend, and we're going to get into that. But before we do that, I guess we should do all the announcements because weather played a big factor. We were watching all the the Facebook groups about the highways and everything, because man, it was raining hard with ice everywhere. There was some crazy accidents. There was one tragically fatal accident, which I'll get into here in just a minute, because there's ways we can help out with that accident and more. But the weather just keeps on going. The weather, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. And so now we've got a winter storm warning and weather alerts for the interior and western Alaska. We down here in the peninsula, we seem to have dodged the bullet on the rest of it. We got the big brunt of it to begin with. But there's going to be the storms from the weekend are carrying over into this morning. So South Central is facing the heaviest rains last night leading up till about 6 a.m. this morning. There's a winter weather advisory in effect from Matsu into Anchorage. Freezing rain hitting the Matsu Valley with 0.2 inches of freezing rain is forecast. Pairing that with 1 to 3 inches of snow. Freezing rain glazing over the roads this last night until the temperatures rise today, where it will again be thawing and freezing. And this is going on until Wednesday in the Matsu and Anchorage area. So you guys, and in fact, I just got notification that the Anchorage School District has now announced the closure of all schools today, citing hazardous weather and icy roads, especially on the side streets and upper elevation. So the Anchorage School District has closed. No word yet on what Matsu is doing, but I imagine that if you kept your kids home today, it probably wouldn't raise any eyebrows. Up in the interior, the interior is now under a winter weather advisory until 3 p.m. on Wednesday. And that's all of central interior, Yukon Flats, White Mountain, Healy, and areas from Healy to the western coast. They're expecting 2 to 8 inches of snow to fall over the course of 3 days, with wind gusts in the interior up to 40 miles per hour. The biggest concern is that it's going to hit tonight into Tuesday and will reduce the visibility on roads that are already icy and sketchy. So just be aware that if you live in the interior, it's winds and blowing snow and icy roads, and down in the Matsu and in the Anchorage area, It's icy. And of course, then it'll freeze and then thaw and then glaze back over and then freeze and thaw and slush, and it'll drag you all over the place. And if you can work from home, probably not a bad idea. So, but that was, this weekend weather just keeps giving. It's been so rainy out here. I mean, it's crazy. You take your life into your own hands just to go out to get something out of the car, right? It's that kind of sketchy out here. So anyway, be aware, check in. If you live in the Matsu, you may want to check in to make sure that these schools are still open and everything else. Anchorage has closed their schools. Kenai still going strong. Everybody down here still going strong. So that's all good. All right. We're good. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're going to crack open the news from the weekend, get into all that. We'll also take a little bit of a moment to talk about Advent and more. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. How you guys doing, man? What's going on? Going to hunker down on Tuesday, says Chris. All right, let me go see. Frank says 84 cents at Walmart. Yeah, but I don't I'm sorry, I don't mean to be erudite. I don't mean to be conceited, but I don't do the frozen turkey. I always get me one of those nice, what do they call them? Young and fresh, the butterball, young and fresh, never frozen butterballs. They're so good. And this year, for the first time ever, I took a stick of butter and I opened up underneath the skin and I filled, it's a butterball, but you can't. So I stuffed it all up underneath the skin of the butterball on the breast and everything else. And it was so good, so juicy. It literally cut into it and it was just running out of the turkey, just running. It was amazing. But I don't do the frozen turkey, you plebes. But I mean, I'm missing I didn't get a sandwich. There was no stuffing left. I just feel like that was, man. But I think I suspect that Brian is right, that the leftovers went home with the kids. So, yeah. Yes, I know, young and fresh. It sounds bad, doesn't it? Let's see. No rain in the Rick says he doesn't have any rain out on Connect Goose Bay. And Terry said there was no rain to Big Lake. Okay, well, you guys dodged the bullet out there because, man, it's about to get gnarly. It's about to get gnarly out there in that part of the world. Okay. Yeah, no. I'd never done that before. I'd never put butter up underneath the skin. But boy, I tell you what, it did make a difference. It made a difference for sure. Schools in the Matsu are on delay due to the ice, Rick said. Thank you, Rick. I didn't see anything. I used to be on the mailing list, but apparently they took me off the mailing list when they realized I moved. You don't need that information anymore. All right. Yeah, sleep is good. Oh man. so like I slept like and I took NyQuil, which I never take, but I was just like, felt like I was drowning and all stuffed up, and I took a NyQuil and I was unconscious. I didn't even move. Woke up and I was a little stiff from not having moved for like 8 hours, Fat Ray over on YouTube says, "Oh, be glad you didn't build that thing, the computer I was talking about. Now RAM prices are out of control thanks to Sam Altman." I saw something about that yesterday. Somebody made some kind of comment about they wanted some RAM for their computer and it was $600 for the RAM. And I'm like, what? Terry said, "I felt like I've heard this built a new computer story before." Well, I did. When everything crashed, I built a new computer. I had all the parts and I'd been putting it off and I finally did it. But it's literally sitting right here next to me under my desk. And it's been there for 6 months. I just, it's one of those things you just don't want to touch it because it's going to, I can foresee it's going to be challenging. So it's going to be. Put rosemary in the butter that you use on the turkey, said Charlie. Ooh, yum. Yeah, I just want more turkey. That's all. I just want more turkey. That's all I want. Okay. I guess we're going to dive down into it here, my friends. You guys ready to peel back the layers of this onion and see what the weekend looked like? Are you ready to cry? You're going to peel back the layers of this onion and cry? That's what it feels like. Good morning, Paul. Paul's checking in from Kodiak. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for coming in. All right, friends, here we go. Let's do this thing. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense. Liberty-based, free thinking. No, I was a little early.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. You ready to get into it? I'll get you some headlines here. A few of the stories that I've been looking at are from around the state. There's the Alaska Utility, the RCA, the Regulatory Commission of Alaska, has approved the secrecy orders for the takeover of GCI. John Malone who's the billionaire who's seeking to take a controlling interest in GCI, filed with his attorneys to the RCA to be able to keep most of his financial stuff secret. And I won't get too far into the details of this. The RCA basically said, well, we've allowed it before and we'll allow it now, even though that, again, almost all of the comments related to the proposal were opposing the request for secrecy. They said, no, we've done it before. It really doesn't, we don't regulate the right rates and we don't do this and we don't do that. And this whole thing is a little, again, the appearance of impropriety. It's kind of it raises a little bit of eyebrows, especially when you realize that GCI is the dominant force in the market. I mean, we've got ACS and we've got, but GCI is the dominant force in the market. And so I guess we'll see what happens there. But he already controls a big chunk of GCI, but he didn't have voting control. And so now he's made the move to take voting control of GCI. He already holds 53% of the shares, but his voting power had been restricted to 49%. And now he's seeking to increase that over the 50% threshold. So I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's planning. I don't know what's going on. But I do know that under the auspices of Liberty Telecom, is that what it's called? Liberty Telecom, the parent company, that When I was a GCI customer, things got a little worse. So, I mean, I just, it's one of the things. One of the things. So that was one of the big news that happened over the weekend. The Eagle exit is moving forward. This may deserve its own show all in and of itself. I don't know if most people are familiar with Eagle exit, but it's like a Brexit, right, thing. So Eagle exit is the attempt by some folks who live in Eagle River to break off Eagle River from Anchorage as part of the municipality. And this effort's been going on, we've got to be going on close to 10 years now, trying to get it all done. But on the 17th of November, the group who is organizing it submitted a large packet of documents to the local boundary commission. And that included a proposed charter, map boundaries, a transition plan, a legal brief, and everything else. Now, they have submitted it before. They submitted an application in 2023, according to the ADN, but they were told by the LBC at the time that their proposal lacks sufficient detail on major issues like financial liabilities and forming a new school district. But, I mean, people are serious. I mean, Eagle River is the most conservative area of Anchorage, and they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick all the time, which, quite honestly, they probably are. I mean, you've got a 10-member assembly. It was a 10 or 11-member assembly with only 2 seats in the Eagle River area, and they're just basically getting run over all the time by the other side of the assembly. Which has been predominantly progressive the whole time. What's interesting is that they quote Chris Constant in the article from the ADN, who is, of course, the chair of the assembly and one of the more vocal progressive people on the thing. He says it's a fantasy when he was talking about it. He goes, you just don't get to walk away with our assets. That's an actual quote. It's a fantasy. You just don't get to walk away with our assets, because they were talking about, how is the new vote? What's the new municipality going to do? Are they going to have buildings? What are they going to do with the schools? How are they going to acquire things that were already paid for? How are they going to do that? Constant said he estimated that if you had to buy out all the stuff that the municipality of Anchorage has purchased on behalf of Eagle River over the years, he said it would be $500 million worth of infrastructure, which I don't know if that's true or not. But he said if they can show that they can make it work, he said, this is the quote, as long as they pay their bill, I'm glad to see them go. This guy is just such a peach, man. Such a peach. As long as they pay their bill, I'm glad to see him go. Otherwise, he said the detachment would amount to a massive land grab and that the municipality would litigate. He said they don't just get to come in and seize all the good stuff. We'd be happy to see them go and see them pay their fair share. Oh, my God, this guy. So we'll see. We'll see if the Eagle exit thing, where it goes from here. But again, they've been talking about it for a long time. Maybe we should try and bring on Catherine Margolin is the chair of Eagle exit. Maybe we should bring her on and get some backstory here. I just find this fascinating because when people find themselves at odds with another group of people, there's only really a couple choices, right? I mean, it's you either divide and go your separate ways or whatever. But when the one group that has a stranglehold on you for many different reasons, and they basically say you can't go, well, I mean, that's a tougher thing. I mean, that's basically the thumbnail. That's the American Revolution in a thumbnail, right? They wouldn't let us go. Not that I'm saying that there's going to be a revolution, but I mean, that's the kind of animosity that people can feel on this. And Eagle River feels like they're being left out. So it's a big deal. So that happened over the weekend. Let's see what else. What else are the other stories here that I wanted to get to? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. The political stories. So, Mike Shower stepped down, Shelley Hughes stepped down. There was some people who were announced for their seat. Of course, for Shower's seat, Rauscher and McCabe were in the running for that, and then Shelley Hughes' seat, Kathy Tilton had made the. And over the weekend, the governor went ahead and confirmed who he wanted. He wanted the nominee, so he got it done. Kathy Tilton and George Rauscher. They were the two that were picked. Now, Kathy, I'm 100% down with. George, sure, he's a heck of a nice guy. I'm sure he is. I've only ever had one conversation with him in which he told me that he did not want to talk to the public. That in enough for me just makes it a tough situation. But there we go. George Rauscher. And then the Senate, they just met. Like the story in the ADN is like the story in KTUU is like three sentences long. Like, here you go, boom, boom, boom. This is what happened. The Senate met and they approved. There was no discussion, no nothing else. The Senate met and over on a Friday they met and they decided. So not only were they nominated by the governor, but Tilton and Rauscher are now both officially senators because the Senate has said yes. Now that's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, everybody has assured me that although I may be upset because Rauscher doesn't want to talk to anybody about it, but that he is strident and he will not be joining the majority caucus, that he wouldn't do that. So, fingers crossed that that's what actually happens. But in an interesting turn of events, that, of course, by the way, leaves 2 seats open in the House. So then in a surprising turn of events, first and foremost, the Valley Republicans asked the Legislative Caucus to hold off on reorganizing until they were able to nominate some replacements for Rauscher and Tilton, which seems like that's not a bad idea. They said that they expected the governor's going to move quickly because he just did for the other 2 seats. And they urged the House Republican minority to hold off on any reorganization or committee assignments until the 2 Matsu seats are filled, warning that proceeding without full representation would shut their constituents out of decisions that could shape the coming legislative session. So that was the thing. Please hold off until we get our seats and then you guys can organize and it'll all be great. And then out of the blue, on Saturday, Delana Johnson gave members of the minority caucus short notice before convening a Zoom meeting to hold a leadership vote on Saturday night. And lo and behold, she secured the support that was needed to take over as minority leader, with Representative Justin Ruffridge of Soldotna chosen as the whip. Now, this is, kind of unusual to just, on a Saturday of a Thanksgiving weekend with late notice. In fact, the story over at the Alaska Story is that several of the members were unable to participate. A couple of them didn't even know. They didn't even see the notification until the meeting was over. Frank Tomaszewski in Fairbanks was in the middle of a fundraiser. Rebecca Schwanke was at a hockey game in the interior, and some legislators said they did not see the notice in time to join the call, and others were not aware that a vote would be taken. So it wasn't just like, hey, we're going to take a vote, please join the call. It was, hey, we're going to have a meeting or a call. And then they took a vote on the meeting. So Suzanne Downing's asking the question of, is this the resurrection of the Muskox caucus? You remember that? The muskox was Paul Seaton from down here, and that was Stutz and Seaton, and those are the two names that stick out with me. I'm getting old. I can't remember all the other ones. But again, the Muskox coalition, of course, is where all those moderate Republicans, they put together their own group and joined forces with the Democrats. Justin Ruffridge has been trying to drag stuff over there. I don't know. What is it? What does it happen? According to one of the reports here, they said that he seldom participated in minority caucus meetings over the past year, while Costello was the caucus leader. So the reorganization has sparked some renewed speculation about an attempt to revive the coalition, a centrist bloc of Republicans, to form some kind of majority. I don't know if that's true or not. Ruffridge did say on the program earlier this year that he would not join the coalition thing. I don't know. But, it's, again, going back to the whole appearance thing, this just appears to be kind of, when the Valley Republicans, the districts that you represent, say, please hold off, and then right after they release that and ask everybody to please hold off, you immediately call a Zoom meeting to hold a leadership vote without really telling people that there was going to be a vote. And then you hold the vote and all of a sudden you're the leader. And right. Is it me, or does that just kind of feel, maybe it's all kosher. Maybe it's all above board. Although again, Suzanne Downing is reporting that at least 3 members of the minority are indicating that they will likely leave the caucus due to the way it was called and conducted, which they found unacceptable. She doesn't name the 3 members of the caucus, but that's a problem. If that, if you're going to have 3 members peel off the caucus, this is, again, this is the perfect example of the problems we have as, for the Republicans in this state, is that they are perfect at circling the wagons and shooting inward, just tearing themselves apart. They can't kumbaya enough. Everybody is too bullheaded and independent-minded to get it done. But so I don't know where this is going. Now, there's been no committee assignment set, but how could you, and I know Delana Johnson's from the Valley, but you've got 2 of the big Valley seats and you're not going to give them any representation on how to vote for the leadership that they're going to be serving under? Kind of weird, man. The whole thing just is hinky, is the word that I'm using for the day. Hinky is what's happening. That's what's going on. Okay. We got to go. We're going to continue. And we will be back. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Don't forget Daniel Cooper will be joining us in hour 2. He's a new candidate, also writes for the Alaska Watchman. So we'll talk with him here in just a bit. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't know what's going on over here. Okay. Dustin says, good morning. What station are you on in Anchorage? Moving down to the Valley next week. I'm not on the air in Anchorage, on any of the terrestrial radio stations. So it would be great if I was, Dustin. it's been speculated. We've talked about it. I've negotiated, but it's never happened. So it's okay. All right. Is your son part of the State Firefighters Association? I don't know. I don't know. I would have to ask him that. Let's see. More lobbying, blah, 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 blah. Eagle Exit really does deserve its own show. They've done yeoman's work to get it done, says Barbara. I think we will. We'll, Eagle Exit. Leaving Anchorage will be much more difficult than starting a charter school, by the way, and Eagle Exit, all schools will be charter schools. I love that. Brian just says adverse possession. Oof. Let's see. Donna Ardwin says Eagle River should also get the taxes that their citizens have paid. Yeah, if they're going to have to pay for all this infrastructure, then they should get all the taxes that their citizens have paid. Yeah. How can they do a leadership vote via Zoom? Well, it's a caucus meeting because it's a leadership caucus, so they can vote. It's a caucus. They can vote them anyway. They can do it. But Charlie asks a pertinent question. What authority did she have to call the meeting? I guess anybody who feels like that they would have enough votes to become leader can call a meeting. Is that the deal? It just feels like it was kind of hanky though, right? I mean, right? It seems shady. Thank you, Lisa. That was hinky may not be the word that I'm looking for. Shady, probably more descriptive and better. Terry says people are furious with Delana. Her and Ruffridge way overstepped their authority. There were not enough reps available hold a vote. She had the cojones to show up at Cape's fundraiser event at the end of the event. Oh wow. Well, we'll have to see. I mean, this may not hold. I mean, if you do seat the two new legislators, there could be another reorganization. That is. We'll see. Maybe there will be another bathroom caucus, says Ron Gillum. Maybe. If not for sleaze and duplicity, talk shows would be relegated to recipes and the fluoridation of the drinking water sapping our precious bodily fluids. Yeah, no, I think that's that's what it is. Let's see. Chris says the powers that be in radio usually go outside of Anchorage for Anchorage radio hosts. Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, a lot of times they go out of the state for Anchorage radio hosts, right? I mean, a lot of times that's what happens. But it was, it's great. Bad optics outside of Alaska. Okay, that's right. You're right, Chris. Sorry. I was thinking outside of Anchorage. They usually go outside because I got called down from Fairbanks when I started doing Anchorage radio. So that's what I was projecting there, Chris. I was projecting. Yeah, there is a possibility of another vote after the infighting dust settles. I agree, Terry. I think that this is premature, especially when the districts have asked not to have it happen, not to have the reorganization happen, and it gets called at the 11th hour like that, the way that it was done. I think that's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth, and it's not going to endear you to the folks who, are trying to make sure that everybody gets represented. I think it's going to be a thing. We'll see what's going on. Bad optics, says CM. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a nice way of putting it. Bad optics, for sure. Okay. I hate bad optics, mainly Crimson Trace. Anthony is over here just doing his thing, No, I am not on any of the radio stations in Anchorage. I'm not on any of the stations in Anchorage. Why isn't Dukes on in Anchorage, a conservative radio king in King Constance Court? Maybe he has something to say about that. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, we'll continue on here, and we'll see what you guys have to say. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Dukes Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, welcome back to the program. Sorry, there's some. Apparently, I got even some more backstory on this whole thing. Apparently Delana she showed up at a Kevin McCabe's fundraiser at the end of the event on Saturday night after she held that meeting, and apparently people are a little bit furious with her, so I don't know. We'll see where, this is not the end of it. See, this is the thing that people don't seem to understand, is that this is not the end of it. I mean, she may have made a play here to become minority leader, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that another vote can't be held once they impanel the two new representatives for the Valley. There's nothing saying that they couldn't organize and reorganize again. I mean, it's kind of a bad look, but is it any less of a bad look than the shady stuff that went on over the weekend? So, I mean, it's, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're talking, by the way, about the reorganization of the House minority and Delana Johnson taking over as the minority leader with Justin Ruffridge as the whip. And apparently people are unhappy. Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay. What else did I want to talk about here before? We got Daniel Cooper coming up here at the top of the hour. He's going to be joining us. And we're going to talk about him and his candidacy, as well as his writings on the Alaska Watchman and everything else. So we're gonna be doing that. But as I've said earlier, I want to try and bring the show in December. I like to bring the show a little bit back around to, to kind of lighter side stuff, some more fun, some life things. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here, but I'm just, I just want it to be, I'm trying to circle of life things. So I wanted to bring something up. My wife and I were talking yesterday about, we were talking about Christmas traditions and things, and we got talking about the Advent, and we'd never really, so we were Googling and looking at it, and I just, because, you got the Advent calendar, right? And Advent wreaths, but what does that mean? And it's a very cool kind of idea. And we're going to adopt it this year and kind of kick off our Advent. I mean, we're not doing all the fancy schmancy stuff. It's a tradition that's practiced by like half the Christian churches out there. I mean, Episcopalian, Catholics, Lutherans, and Protestants. I mean, but it's Advent is the time. It's the 4 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It starts on the final Sunday rather of November. And it goes to celebrate every day. It's 24 days, right? So it always starts on the 30th of November, and then it runs 24 days until Christmas Day, obviously. That's where you get the calendar from, where you open up and there's little goodies or whatever. Sometimes they do the wreaths where you light it and everything else. Advent signals the shift from the ordinary time into a sacred season of preparation, reflection, and expectation. Observed in most Christian denominations, Advent is a dual observance, according to the Alaska story. Christians preparing to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ and preparing spiritually for Christ's second coming. This year, the Advent runs from Sunday, yesterday, through Christmas Eve. Well, it always runs through November 30th through the 24th. And it always begins on the Sunday nearest to the November 30th date that coincides with the feast of St. Andrews the Apostle. And it spans 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. And many churches begin by lighting the candle in the Advent wreath and then moves on for each one. And each week has a theme. Each week has a traditional theme that it carries with it as you light the 4 candles of the Advent wreath or as you go through. So the first week is hope. Hope is the first week. That's this week. Next week is peace. That is the theme of the second week of Advent. Joy is the third week of Advent. And then the final week leading up till Christmas Day is love. And it's it's fantastic. It is fantastic. So the Advent is out there. It's a time of gathering, prayer, traditions, wreaths, candles, daily readings, acts of charity, just doing Christmassy things, man. It feels good, man. And so Terry and I were talking about that, and we're definitely doing some things this week and this next 4 weeks where we're going to really enjoy it for out there. So it's great. It's the 4 weeks before the first day of winter and the longest night of the year for those who aren't practicing Christians. It's right up there against the solstice. So it's super cool stuff. All right. So it's Advent week. It's the beginning of the season. And I hope you guys are all breaking out your eggnog and your music, your Christmas music. I hope you're bringing out your little prayer books and remembering the reason for the season and doing all that stuff, because this is the time. And remember, we can get all upset about all this about all this political stuff, but all that is going to pass away one day, and we're going to need to remember why we're all here. Remember it all. It's right here. All right, my friends, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Daniel Cooper up next. Okay. I see that Mr. Cooper, they call him Mr. Cooper. He's in the green room hanging out there. And I guess we should test that audio. Let's test that audio, shall we, before we go any further? I got a bunch of comments to get through in the chat room, but we'll go over and check in with Daniel first things first and see what he has to say. Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Ooh, you sound a little slow. Need some coffee this morning, my friend. Need some coffee.
I'm working on it.
Okay. All right. Well, we got about 5-6 minutes here as we get ready to go. So if you want to do that, I don't know if you can zoom your camera in just a little bit more or not. I don't know if it's got a zoom feature, but if it does, great. If not, then we'll turn you. And or maybe drag your computer a little closer to you. There you go. There you go. Maybe we'll get a little closer to the microphone too. So we'll get there. All right. So you're all ready. Oh, you got a microphone. You got a microphone. See, you're fancier than I am. I got one on a stand here, and he's got the fancy lapel. But this is what happens when you become a big time reporter for the Alaska Watchman. All right. So if you're ready, we'll get kicked into this here in just a minute. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So hold on. Like I said earlier, I'd been wanting to get a hold of Daniel because I've been following some of his writings on the Alaska Watchman, and lo and behold, he reached out to me because he's running for office, which that should be interesting to see how they take that on with the with his writings and stuff like that. That'll be interesting. All right. Let me see. Let me get back over here to the I'm going backwards in the comments here. I think it's a violation of local propaganda laws to play Michael Dukes in Anchorage. Don't the brown shirts come knocking at your door for stuff like that in Anchorage for re-education time? Maybe. I think we heard that you were listening to the Michael Dukes and we would like to see your papers. No, you're going to be re-educated. Delana caused a bad look. I'm not arguing with that. I mean, again, it just seems, whether it was legit, it just seems shady, right? And a lot of times the appearance of impropriety is a problem in my mind. I mean, when I look at something and I go, ooh, that seems super shady, Barbara says true strength does not require secrecy. Truth is truth, let's see. Navigate to calmer waters. Her shenanigans give the whole party shade, says CM. Yeah. Freezing rain in Wasilla now. Sidebar, says Terry. Freezing rain. Just went out to feed the critters. Freezing rain. Yeah. Yeah, there's only 4 weeks till Christmas. Need to finish ordering gifts if they have any hope of shipping on time. I know. I was just thinking that today. Like today and maybe tomorrow are my last 2 days to get all the stuff that if I were going to get it from out of town. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. As soon as I feel better, I'll get out the Christmas stuff. It's my oldest holiday. It's my oldest favorite holiday. Yeah. I feel you. Okay. Good morning, Daniel Cooper. You've written some great articles in the Alaska Watchman, says David. Brian says, yay, another bearded bald guy. I mean, it's like all the cool kids. Paul says, not to brag, but I just jarred up 3 gallons of homemade yogurt. Most of it will go to the staff at our Kodiak Food Bank. Well, good for you, my friend. I didn't even know how to make yogurt. I didn't even know where to begin. Although I do love me some yogurt every now and then. Anthony said, is the guest being held by Al-Qaeda? Blink twice if you need help, sir. It's a blank sheet. It's not a flag. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. All right. Does anyone else sprinkle powdered sugar on their French toast? No. I sprinkle brown sugar on my French toast. Why would you get cinnamon French toast and then you put a little butter and then you put a little layer of brown sugar on top of it? I mean, you go into a diabetic coma, but it's delicious. I mean, and sometimes, the hurt is good, right? I mean, that's some good stuff. Okay. I think I'm all caught up. I think I'm all I gotten pretty much all the good stuff. I squeezed all the juice out of this orange. So that's all it is. David just said, to Harold's question about does anybody sprinkle powdered sugar on their French toast? David said, I think Hunter Biden does, but that's not powdered sugar. It's not powdered sugar. I don't know why, but my mouth is all numb. I don't know what's going on, but my mouth feels really numb. That French toast is really good. Woo! Yeah, it'll be good. All right. Let's get back to it. That was the perfect segue into the next segment, I guess. Kind of, maybe. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Hour 2 is right now with Daniel Cooper.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, hello there. Welcome back. The Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only stream, as well as shortcuts and links to our Facebook page, YouTube, Rumble, and more. That's where you go to get all the good stuff, because we simulcast the radio show each and every day out on the interwebs for those of you who care about that kind of stuff. Hour 2 of the big radio show today. I hope if you're just joining us, I hope you had a fantastic Turkey Day. That 4-day weekend, man, it went so fast. How did we get here already? Right? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's only 24 days till Christmas now, right? So you just over 3 weeks. We're ready to go. And we're going to dive into it. We're going to try and lighten things up throughout the month. We're going to do some fun stuff. On Wednesday, we've got the founder of Wheelchairs for Warriors on the program to talk about how that organization came about. I'm working on some stuff. I'm trying to get Rod Pyle from NASA and JPL back on the program to talk about space and some other fun things. We're going to do traditions. We're going to do fun stuff. Some days we're just going to goof off and talk about our favorite movies. Whatever it is, we're going to lighten it up. But we still got some, like we're working on right now. We're going to try to have Donna Arduin and Joe Geldhoff on Thursday to talk about the state fiscal mess. Tomorrow's Brad Keithley, Chris Story. And then I am off. I want to do this housekeeping. I got to do this every day before the end of the month, because if I don't, I will get a text, irrefutably, I will get a text on the first morning that I'm off on my vacation. Like, why aren't you on the air? I take that last week off of between Christmas, the 22nd, all the way through Christmas, through New Year's, and then we come back. So it's my vacation. I'm looking forward to it. So we will have alternate programming starting on the 22nd of December through the end of the year, because nobody really cares about what's going on there. Guys, come on. Do you think anything, when I used to do that show, that was the worst part of the year, because there's really very little political happening between Christmas and New Year's. Nobody wants to look at a politician or anything else at that time. All right. So that's what's going on. All right. Today, in hour 2, it was kind of fortuitous, serendipitous. I don't know whatever word you want to use. I've been following Daniel Cooper over at the Alaska Watchman here for the last couple months. He's been doing some writing, and I've been like, man, I like what this guy has to say. He concises it down. In fact, I've covered a couple of his stories. One of the times I think I said, he just basically said everything I've been saying, but in a better way. He concised it better, right? Made it more understandable. So lo and behold, I get a text from Daniel. Which I was going to reach out to him, but he reached out to me. And the reason he reached out to me is because he's decided to throw his hat in the ring and run for elected office. And he is running for the Alaska legislature, and he is going to go up against Justin Ruffridge, who, of course, we were just talking about earlier in the last hour, where he's now the new minority whip in this kind of shady, whatever, right? So anyway, we're going to talk with Daniel right now. Let's jump over there and see what Daniel Cooper had to say about a little bit of everything. Good morning, Daniel. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It is it's just another beautiful day here in paradise, and although I don't have any turkey leftovers, which is a little disappointing to me, but we'll deal with it. All right, so Daniel, we're gonna kind of we'll do this in two parts. We'll talk to you like as a candidate, and then we'll also talk to you as a citizen journalist, and we'll get into that. But first and foremost, for folks out there who don't know who you are, have never heard of you, don't know what's going on, give us the origin story, the hero origin story for Daniel Cooper. Where did you come from? What do you do? What makes you you? Let's start. Let's get started there.
Sure. Well, I was born into a two-parent Army household. My first experience in Alaska was from my toddler years when I lived in Fairbanks because my mother was stationed at Fort Wainwright. Um, I went to school in Texas, spent most of my time there as a young adult. Then I joined the Army myself. I wound up here stationed at J. Barrens in Fort Wainwright. I ended up finding my wife. Um, and we've been back and forth a few times. We've got 6 kids in total together, and we're here now and living on the Kenai and enjoying the rain in November.
It's been crazy, hadn't it? I mean, I kept going outside. I'm like, it's going to stop eventually. I mean, it's going to stop eventually. Taking your life into your own hands to go out and get something out of the car, because it's so greasy out there.
Absolutely.
What do you do right now, Daniel? What now that you're done militarily and everything else? What do you do now?
I'm a health and safety advisor on the North Slope. I cover 7 different companies throughout the entire lease on both the Hillcorp and the Conoco sides.
Okay.
I drive a lot, is what I mean to say.
I drive a lot. All right, I drive a lot. Okay, well, it's all good. And I guess this is one of my favorite questions that I get a chance to ask of candidates and everything else is, when exactly did you lose your mind? I mean, what would make you want to jump into the meat grinder, the absolute circus that is the Alaska legislature? I mean, did you just wake up and be like, you know what, I think I'd like to do instead of driving all this stuff and making a good living and doing, I think I'd like to go to Juneau and just go. What exactly was it? A single thing? Was it a culmination of things? What's going on? Give me your aha moment.
It's just a pure love for self-flagellation. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're gonna get it.
Um,
Trust me. It's gonna happen. You know.
well, I'm vehemently opposed to abortion. When we returned to the state, I started to reach out to my own representatives, and the answers I was getting, if I got an answer, were very politically lazy, to be quite honest, which led me to start looking into the Alaska political system. And the more I looked into things, the more frustrated I got, and um, it just ultimately led me to saying, I have to do something personally. Maybe I can make a difference, and I'm just going to put myself in here and see what happens, because it's otherwise nothing is definitely going to happen. So
Right. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the very definition of that insanity. I get
exactly.
that. You said you've been looking at you've been looking at the politics, you've been looking at the legislature, you've been doing what's your take on the state of the state right now? Give us, as a guy looking in who's decided now to throw his hat into the ring, tell me, what do you see in the state? What is what are the problems? What is your take on it?
Well, my biggest frustration personally is that I have yet to find an actual conservative. I hear we have a Republican majority somewhere, but I have not yet found it. Once I figured out the whole majority coalition nonsense, that just I don't even know where to begin with that. When you have a majority as a party in both houses of the legislature and in the governor's office, and you just give it away, I don't know how you come to that conclusion. I really don't, unless there are other things at play that you're not telling your voters. And that is by far my biggest frustration. And to be fair, the Republicans who don't join the majority coalition seem to often vote as though they're in that coalition anyway.
Right. Or they're fighting it out with themselves, I guess, as part of the problem as well. Right.
Of course.
They're duking it out. And of course, over the weekend, we saw that that this happened, right? The Rauscher and Tilton were appointed and confirmed to the Senate, leaving 2 empty seats in the House minority. And the districts in those areas said, okay, well, please don't reorganize until we get some names appointed and some people in there. Don't reorganize and assign committees. And immediately, Delaney Johnson called a meeting and reorganized. They didn't assign committees, but she reorganized. She's the new leader. And your opponent, Justin Ruffridge, became the minority whip. What are your thoughts about how that all went down? You're watching this, I'm assuming, because you're into politics now and you're writing for the Watchman. What were your thoughts as you watched this story unfold?
Well, I was aware of the appointments. I was not aware of the quick reorganization and what led up to that. I had a nice weekend with my family and tried not to get into politics too much. But um, knowing that now, it just seems par for the course. Um, as far as Justin Ruffridge just won a nonpartisan award from some leftist organization, along with another Democrat in our legislature, and it just seems to fall right in line with the things that frustrate me and the voters. It's maddening. It really is.
Yeah. When you looked at it, this was the seat, obviously in your district or where you live. What do you think would separate you out from Justin in this regard? I mean, he's the current candidate. What do you think? If you're going to go to somebody's door and knock on it, and they say, "Well, I've been voting for Justin," yada. What do you think separates you out? What is the major differences between where he stands, the votes he's taken, the things that he's done, and where you would stand as a candidate?
Well, there's quite a few differences. One of the primary things is that just at the most basic level, I believe I have a firmer foundation to stand on as far as what I believe and how it guides the way I will vote if I'm elected to the legislature. My opponent seems to have a very wishy-washy type of view on things. He'll bounce back and forth several times on issues. The education bills and the governor's veto override being one of those. Um, I am 100% for a full PFD. And I'm not just saying that in political terms. I'm actually working very hard to figure out the math on how that can be a possibility. Um, I am not for simply giving money to or increasing the education budget without tangible results. It's something I've written on vehemently. Um, and the social issues, my opponent was on the Soldotna City Council when that whole drag show in the park occurred. It seemed like he didn't have much of an opinion on that. There was also another bill within the same vein when he was in the legislature, and he seemed very, very weak on that. And so, if I had to just kind of narrow it down, the most important thing is that when I tell you that I believe something and I'm going to vote this way or that way, that's the way I'm going to vote. I don't care, you know, what kind of suggestions are made by a majority coalition or, potential threats of losing staff or being kicked off a committee seat or anything of that nature. Um, my views are what my views are as a voter. You will know where I stand, and I won't move from that unless there's an actual convincing argument with actual facts and data to prove out the fact that I was wrong to begin with.
Right. Daniel Cooper is our guest. Cooper for Alaska on X. He's at Cooper for Alaska. We're going to continue here in just a moment, but we are up against the break, and so we're going to continue right after this. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we are in the break with Daniel Cooper, who's running for Anthony. Anthony's stuck on this. He says clearly he's being forced against his will by terrorists to run for office. There's two dudes in turbans with a camcorder broadcasting from a cave in Kandahar. We need to save Mr. Cooper right now. Get those tier 1 operators rolling. No, it's good stuff. I mean, how did the conversation go with your wife when you were like, you know what, I think I want to just give up this great job that I've got up here and I think I just want to run for office. What was that conversation like?
Well, of course, as any good wife would be, she was concerned. My wife is very gifted at, finding the areas I'm not thinking about and helping me think through problems, which is wonderful. So we just, she had some concerns. We talked about those concerns, and I prayed about it a lot. And ultimately, I decided that it was necessary. And there are even some things that occurred that kind of made me think what God wants me to do overall. Just some things that would otherwise be just a mere coincidence, just the timing. And for example, I was at church a couple of months ago. As we were having this discussion, my wife and we hadn't told anyone, and I met somebody else in my church who I hadn't met yet because we both work on the slope, and typically our hitches don't align that way. But he happened to be there, and we started talking, and he just flat out asked me if I'd run for office as I'm in the middle of this discussion, which is, something I can't ignore. My wife couldn't ignore it either. And yeah, but overall, it's really out of just pure necessity based on what I've seen so far in the Alaska political system.
Yeah. Now you're going to be one of 60 if you get elected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you convince the other 59 yahoos that what you're doing is going in your direction? I mean, that's the thing. We've talked about a full PFD, but a full PFD is going to require, $2 billion. We'll be lucky. It costs $660 million roughly to pay out this last PFD of $1,000. And we're looking at $1 billion deficits running forward. I mean, have you considered what it's going to take to get that full PFD, and how do you get those other 60 yahoos to agree with you?
I have. I think it's the political game. Everyone wants to get reelected ultimately. And, if I can convince enough people that reinstating the full PFD will make them a political hero and solidify their seats for several elections to come, that might be one way to do it. The math is difficult. I've learned quite a bit from listening to Mr. Keithley on your show, which has been tremendously helpful. And as far as the other 59 people, you're going to have to deal with Democrats who always, they've never seen a tax they didn't like, first of all. And second, all the Republicans that are kind of joining with them or, bouncing back and forth as far as the way they vote. Ultimately, everybody wants to look good. And if you can make them look good, that's the way you accomplish things, it seems. And that's what I would try to do.
Daniel Cooper is our guest, and we're going to continue with him here in just a second. We're coming back into the radio here in just a second. I want to talk a little bit more about the state business, and then we can spend the last segment going over some of your Watchman stuff. So I would love to get a chance to do that. So please stick with us here, Daniel. You could find him on X at cooperforalaska.com. That's his X handle, and you can go over there and follow him there. And you can also, again, find him over at the Alaska Watchman, and we'll be talking about that here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We return right now. Let's get to it.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're continuing right now. Our guest for this hour is Daniel Cooper, who, if you read the Alaska Watchman, you're probably familiar with some of his writings. He writes a lot on education and things that are happening in the legislature. Right now, though, we're talking about his run for the state house. He's just made the decision and announced that he's going to be running for the state house down in the Kenai area against the current representative Justin Ruffridge. Let's talk about the state of the state, Daniel. There's going to be some big issues that are facing us. I mean, this year, but also in the coming years. Obviously, you've written a lot about education, so education is a big component of it because that's the second biggest line item on our budget is education spending, right? We've got the health and social services stuff. We've got, a potential now for defined benefits coming back. We've got all this. The budgets, the 10-year plans that the governor's put out, I mean, they're all, none of it's good, right? They're all in the red. $1.5 billion deficits moving forward every year from now until the end of the 10-year plan. And and those are with very rosy assumptions. We're looking at this. So as you look at this and you look ahead, what are the big things that you want to tackle? And I guess first and foremost, because this is all dealing with fiscal issues, what kind of fiscal plan have you looked at or come up with or endorsed or anything else to try and solve this massive deficit problem that we are facing here in the state of Alaska?
Sure. Well, as I said before, I've listened to you talk to Brad Keithley, which has provided me quite a bit of insight. I've tried not to look so much at the current projections and the plans that have been laid out, just so that I can start with kind of an open mind, a fresh look at things. And I've kind of tried to develop some budgetary changes. One of the biggest things is, as Mr. Keithley often says, we've got to spread things out. A tax needs to happen. And I should back up. I don't want to kill my political career in one sentence.
Right. That was it right there. You just did it. It's soundbite.
So what I mean by that, there's a lot of people that are proposing a statewide sales tax. I know Anchorage is trying to get a municipality sales tax. I want a sales tax too, but it's not the same as what everyone else is trying to do. When I look at this state, I see a beautiful state that has tons of potential, where millions of people come every summer for, from May to October. They come, they put wear and tear in our roads, they use our services. There are 450-ish rescue missions that happen every summer, most of which happen with tourists who don't know the landscape very well. I want a sales tax that is seasonally driven to where the tourists that are coming in will help pay for this. And so doing the math on that, I will propose an 8% sales tax. And the way that you make sure that that doesn't apply to Alaska citizens is you just provide an instant rebate upon showing an Alaska ID. It's simply that easy. And doing that, if my math is correct, should provide the state with a little over $200 million per year in tax revenue, which will, put a significant dent in the PFD issue. Another thing is we have a lot of redundancy in administrative positions in the school districts, especially out in the bush districts. That needs to stop. We don't need an administrator for every 50 to 100 students in each village, and there are I lived in the bush for a year. I lived in Port Ellsworth, um, although some people don't really consider that the bush. Um, the administrator there covers multiple schools. He flies around occasionally, checks on the schools, checks on the students. I think that's a much more cost-effective model. I think that can be done in a lot of places, and it can significantly reduce the education budget. Same goes for the UAA system. We have redundant administrative costs there that need to be reduced. Um, and we need to have some kind of a slight tax increase for the oil companies that are benefiting from the state. Not enough to run them out of the state, mind you, but something has to happen. They need to contribute a little bit. And so far, that's where I'm at with kind of a financial plan.
And do you think that in doing that, I think that, those are great ideas. The consolidation of school, we got 53 school districts, and we probably could pull that down to just a handful, and that would eliminate a lot. But there's going to be a lot of pushback, man. I mean, people will lose their jobs. It's a lot of jobs out there. How are you going to convince your fellow legislators that that is a sound fiscal practice?
Well, it really comes down to whether or not they want this state to continue to thrive. It depends on whether or not they want to see people move in instead of move out. If we can't get the fiscal plan right, if we can't get the budget in line, the state is going to continue on this negative trend. And, you know, I, we've got to do what's right. Ultimately, that's what it's about. Now, convincing a large mass of politicians that we need to do what's right as opposed to what's politically expedient, that's a giant hurdle. But I'm confident in my own skills and abilities to talk with people and reason with people that can maybe actually be a real possibility.
I would love to see. Well, I agree. It seems blatantly apparent to a lot of us from the outside looking in what needs to be done. But we saw it. We saw, Mike Shower, Kevin McCabe, a handful of other legislators over the years, just as a one example, have pushed to eliminate positions that are funded but not filled, to the tune of tens of millions of dollars of positions that are funded but not filled. And they were shot down by their fellow legislators because, we couldn't they need that. They couldn't. That's just another example of areas that we could recoup some of those monies. This is going to be, like you said, self-flagellation. I think you said at the beginning that maybe that's what this is. This is going to be a very difficult road to hoe.
Definitely. And oddly enough, I look forward to going down the road. I just truly and simply, I just want to be able to accomplish things for this state that allow it to thrive. I've not only worked on the slope, I've worked for the state as an investigator, and I've seen the condition of how a lot of the people have to live, and the government shouldn't be here to try to fix every single problem. I'm not a communist, but there are a lot of things we could do to certainly make it easier on people as opposed to making it more difficult. And maybe some of the politicians who have spent too much time in Juneau just need to put their boots on and get back out on the roads and even off the roads and go look at how the people of this state are living, how they're struggling. And I don't know, maybe that will inspire them to change what they're doing. I don't know.
Some of the big issues, of course, include the defined benefits plan. That's being pushed pretty hard in the legislature right now. It's their solution, supposedly, to their lack of employees or their ability to retain or to hire new employees. Have you studied the defined benefits program as it's being proposed? Have you looked at the history of it? What's your position on defined benefits here in the state, and what should we do?
I'm generally aware of it. I do know that once that once the state employees that I worked with caught wind of that possibility, there was excitement, and I mean, of course, there is. Everybody would like to retire, you know, peacefully and know what's coming and have a pension. And but the fact of the matter is, it will break the state, just like it's broken other states, which is why they've stopped doing this. Um, it's not a solution. I, it just amazes me. It Our politicians seem to think that finding all of the worst ideas from the lower 48 is the best way to solve all of our problems. And it's just amazing. Um, we you talk about we talk about trying to get back to the full PFD and where cuts need to be made and all this stuff. And then we come up with a quote unquote solution where we're just going to hand out wads of cash for all eternity. It makes no sense. And my training, I work on the slope right now, but I'm also working on a doctorate in law and policy. So I kind of have both sides of this. I have the blue collar side. I understand the workforce and what you know just everyday people are doing, but I also have the training to understand complex policy issues. And if I can encourage any of the politicians, it's just to think differently. Throwing money at a problem has yet to work, and you've got to come up with something else. You really do. And we need funding for things, but there are better ways to do it than just a general fund. Throw this much more money at it, and it'll work. That's not how policy works, and we've got to change it.
The school, obviously the school issue, you mentioned it with your opponent. How we've seen these continual push for a higher BSA, and the second that they got the increase in the BSA this last go around, the talking points already started. Well, that was a nice start. Now we're coming back next year because we need even more. It was like more and more and more. So we just put another $200 million a year in perpetuity forever moving forward. They're looking to get another $500-600 million on top of that if they're looking for that next $1,000 BSA. I mean, it's a significant chunk. What is your take on increasing the education spend, and what kind of trade-offs does that require from you to be able to sign off on something like that?
Well, I'm not for increasing the BSA anymore. I wouldn't have been for increasing it to the level that they just did recently. Um, I am Most of my experiences within the private industries. I've worked in the auto industry and all sorts of other things, and the way the government works is the least effective thing I've ever seen. Not only here but in other places as well, and it's very apparent to me throughout my experience that competition drives success and also filters out people who have no interest in being successful. Personally, I would like to see the BSA be assigned to each student and that money go with them, whether they want to continue to go public school or if they want to go to a private school, a charter school, or even be homeschooled. Once once the schools have to compete for students, things will change. But we have to get there first. No one wants to take that leap. Of course, there are all kind of special interests, and I wrote an article about the education task force and how that's working out, and how almost every person on that task force is taking money from special education interests. It's the
Yeah.
only way to fix this problem is to drive competition. It has to be done that way. Um, and also the half-hearted plans that we've implemented. We kind of copied Mississippi. in the way that they fixed their test score issues with
Reading,
basic
yeah,
subjects. Yeah,
yeah,
and
read by mind.
but we only implemented it to the third grade, and we took all of the teeth out of it, so that there seems to be some minor positive effect, but it's not a lot, and it's not going to be persistent as the students get older.
Daniel Cooper is our guest at Cooper for Alaska on X. If you want to follow him over there, we're going to take one final break here. When we come back, we're going to change gears a little bit because, again, this is early days for Daniel's candidacy, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to discuss with him some of his writings in The Watchman as well, because he's been writing about, especially the education stuff. He's been writing about that as well. So we'll continue with that here in just a moment. So don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Daniel Cooper is our guest. We'll be back with more right after this. We'll be back.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Beard power. That's what we're all about here. Beard power.
That's right.
And you took a pretty I don't know, strong, dangerous stand. I mean, you work on the slope, you're working for oil companies, and yet you had the audacity to say that we should increase the oil taxation on the oil companies. Now it's one thing for Brad Keithley to say it because he's retired from oil and gas, but it's another thing for you to say it when you're, but I mean, there's money left on the table, right? I mean, we're supposed to develop the resources to the maximum benefit of the citizenry. And if there's money left on the table there, like you said, we don't want to drive them out, but at the same time, it's a limited, finite resource. We should be getting the money that we can get, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a dangerous stance, but I think ultimately, if we get that little bit of taxation, um, and the state begins to thrive because we've hopefully balanced the budget and our fiscal plans have improved, I think the oil companies will see improvement in their own operations as well. Maybe there's some ways, and I haven't looked into this yet, but maybe our improvement as a state will help improve ease of operation for the oil companies. Maybe it saves them money in other ways. These are things we have to think about. I've not looked at that yet, but I probably should very soon. Um, but ultimately, yes. Yeah, I work in the oil and gas industry, but the point of running for office is to improve the lives of Alaskans and do what's right by them. And if a slight increase
Yeah. Well, they're
is,
owners, right? They're the owners of the resource, so they need to get maximum compensation that the market will bear. And
Mhm,
so you need to find that balance point where the market will bear it. If
absolutely.
you add an extra $400 or $500 million in taxation, and they're still making money, still, reaping the rewards of in the billions of dollars, I think you can find that happy spot. I think this idea of locking a tax structure in amber for the oil companies because you're afraid they're going to take their ball and bat and go home somewhere, that's short-sighted. We need to be constantly looking at that. And if we need to tinker with it every 5 years, then we need to tinker with it every 5 years. That's what happens.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah. Final thoughts here as a candidate. If folks, because again, this is early days and you're just getting your platform set, you're just getting things kind of put together. What is your early on here elevator pitch to somebody if you bump into them and you say, oh, by the way, I'm running for, you're at the local grocery store there and I'm running for legislature. What's your elevator pitch to people as they say, why, or why should I vote for you? What's the Daniel Cooper elevator pitch?
Sure. Well, I'm a true conservative. That's what I'll start with. I'm a constitutional conservative. I have conservative social values. I will not vote in favor of any the craziness that's gone on for the last 10 years. As I said before, I understand both blue collar and white collar perspectives on policy issues, which gives me a unique uh, placement as far as how to approach things. Um, I can understand these complex, nuanced issues, how to approach certain things. Um, and I just think that our government, especially my opponent in this particular case, is failing his constituents. And I think I can do better. And if I can provide a quote from when my opponent debated Ron Gillum on your show, uh, he said, "Follow the law or change the law. The people have elected officials whose sole job it is the job of the legislature, and I think it's only two things we're responsible for, and that's setting a budget, a fiscal plan. I think putting the PFD vote to the people is a cop out. That's in response to Ron Gillum. We have to make some cuts. I know there's a lot of waste in the healthcare budget. We need to do the hard work and present a plan to the governor. We have to do it. It's our job, and that's what we're elected to do. And if we were elected to do it and we don't do it, we should be unelected.
Right.
That's what I'm here to do.
Well, yeah, and I would argue that, putting it to a vote of the people is not a cop out. The reason that they don't want to put it to a vote of the people is because they know overwhelmingly the people would say we'd like the PFD. I mean, it was the same reaction that I got from Peter Micciche right after SB 26 was put in place. And I said, because at the time, Senator Dunleavy had suggested we put it to a vote of the people. And he said no. And Micciche said, well, no, of course not. We don't, they people would vote with their wallets. Exactly.
Imagine that.
Exactly. That's the thing. It doesn't it's some crazy stuff. But that's kind of where we're at right now. All right. Well, we're gonna jump back into it here on the radio, and we're gonna talk about your writings for the Watchman and how that got started and your points. And like I said, you've been writing a lot about education, which I think is good. And I think you've got some good ideas, and you've delineated some of the stuff there as well. We're just going to pick through a couple of your latest articles, and we'll go over that here. Daniel Cooper is our guest. Early days here for the election, but it's time, I guess. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are returning now. Daniel Cooper is our guest. I hope he's still with us. Are you still with us, Daniel? Uh-oh. Daniel, we just lost the connection. He's going to reconnect with us here in just a second. Daniel Cooper is our guest. He is a candidate now running for election in the legislative race for the seat currently being held by Justin Ruffridge down in the Kenai. But Daniel also writes for the Alaska Watchman, which is initially where I saw a lot of his thoughts and writings on that. And I wanted to take a minute here and kind of go over some of that as well. Daniel, how did you get started in writing for the Watchman? What got you started there?
Well, I was originally researching what's going on when I was thinking about running for office. The more I dove into these topics, and the more research I did, and I started to think about solutions and policy. I just thought, it might be good to just kind of share some of this, and maybe people don't see a lot of what I'm seeing right now. And so I reached out to Joel, and he was kind enough to start publishing my work, and I just went from there.
Yeah, I read what you're reading, and you've been writing mostly about education issues. And you specifically were talking about the kind of the fixes in on the education task force. So give me your thoughts as you look at the educational task force. Anybody who's been following these things realized as they announced the names of the people who were on the task force that this was this was not going to be great, right? Because this was kind of a bought and paid for committee who basically already, they already knew what outcome they wanted. Now they were looking for kind of the political cover to do it. Give me your take on the education task force. Well, I guess I should be more specific because the actual title is the Education Funding Task Force. And that's a key component when you look at this. It's not just a task force on education, it's a task force on funding education. But give me your take on the task force.
Well, I think this goes right back to what we were talking about earlier. One, every member of this task force, save one of them, has been partially funded by the NEA or several other education special interest groups. And that's not nefarious in itself, but it does show you where their loyalties lie. I recall in my opponent's debate a couple of years ago that um, he was called out on taking money from the NEA, and he flat out said it's because he's open to things like the defined benefit. And so, what I think you're going to see coming out of this task force is a Christmas list for the education lobby being approved. Probably not all of it because it would just absolutely bankrupt the state, but you're going to see a lot of things that are ultimately going to benefit the education special interests as much as they can get away with and still retain their seats. And we're just going to keep going on this vicious cycle of we need more money for school. Okay, we got more money for schools. That's not working. Now we need more money. And it's just going to continue in that rotation into oblivion unless we stop it.
Yeah. Well, and that's been part of the problem is the answer to the education problem in Alaska has consistently been, well, we just need more money. Now, even when 2015, we were spending more per capita than any other state in the nation in 2015 on a per student basis. And yet, even then, our scholastic scores were in the bottom. And it's just, and we're spending more and more and more, and it just continues to be in the bottom of that. And the fact that this education funding task force got together, and the only people that were invited to testify were people who were involved in the industry, players in the industry. They didn't invite parents or PTAs, students, other people from outside of the bubble that is the education industry. And that again, like I said before, even the appearance of impropriety can cause problems. That's kind of shady when when you have an education task force, you're supposed to be taking ideas from everywhere, but instead you're only inviting people from inside the bubble. That's part of the problem.
Of course, it's all part of the game, and it's why we're in the shape we're in right now. If you look at this from, for example, like a criminal law perspective, it's equivalent to a judge hearing your case, but only allowing the prosecution to have witnesses and no cross examination from the defense whatsoever.
Right.
That's basically what we're doing in the legislature for this education task force, and it's atrocious. And we've got to do something better. We've got to think outside the box and not just continue to throw nondescript money at nondescript so-called solutions that we can't measure. There's so much money going into our education budget that has no measurable outcome attached to it. None whatsoever. I've done the research. There's nothing there. It's just more money. And we're getting nothing for it.
What do you say to the arguments that we had during this last session where the people in the minority were like, okay, well, we're open to talking about an educational increase, but there has to be some policy changes and we need to talk about that policy change. And they were like, no, shut up and give us our money. We'll talk about policy later. Or we're not qualified to talk about policy. We need to leave that to the experts or whatever. I mean, should there be some policy changes? You mentioned the Read by 9 program that came about and things like that. Should there be some policy changes that are implemented at the legislative level because the schools are obviously not doing it?
Yes, absolutely. And if you're not qualified to talk about policy, I'm not sure what you're doing in the legislature, to be perfectly honest. We all saw what certain groups of experts can do to a place, during the whole 2020 fiasco. I'm not sure just saying, well, we need to listen to the experts is the best answer. Consequently, I am qualified to talk about policy. It's part of my training. Um, And yes, we need policy changes. I support the copying of the Mississippi plan, full stop. I think it worked for Mississippi. I think it can work here, but I think you have to go into it completely. I think you can't, go have this half-hearted plan
Right.
to where you take all the teeth out of what Mississippi did and expect the same result. It's not going to work that way. If you're going to copy Mississippi because they were successful, copy Mississippi. Do the right thing. Have the
Right.
reading coaches actually hold people back if they're not reading on level by third grade. Do the actual work.
You also talked a little bit, we got about 2 minutes here. You also talked a little bit about funding, following the child, backpack funding, whatever you want to call it. That's something that you would support, kind of an education account or funding that would follow the child, giving them the ability to do public school or charter school or private school.
Yes, absolutely. My only goal here with education, and it should be the goal of every politician in the state, is to improve the education of the child. If that means if the parents believe that that means their child should stay in public school, so be it. Fine. But if a parent thinks that a private Christian school or a charter school or what have you is the best option for their child for their future, they should have the ability to make that decision without without government telling them they must learn this or that or whatever. All the data shows that private, charter, and homeschool children succeed way more than public school kids do. And if parents want to make that decision, they should be able to take some of the money they pay into the tax system and do that.
Right. Daniel Cooper, our guest. We're down to the last 90 seconds. So again, just the final bite at the apple here, Daniel. Folks, why should folks look to you as a potential candidate here? I'll give you the floor.
Sure. I'm a true conservative. I have a backbone. I will not be flaky about issues. I will not say one thing one day and then completely turn around and do a 180 the next day on the same issue unless some actual facts have changed that support my changing of decision. Um, I I will not back down. I will not join a majority coalition just because it's politically expedient. In fact, I won't do anything just for political expedience. And I'm here for the constituents, for the voters. I'm not here for my own career. I don't have to do this. I could easily just stay at my job. I have a great boss and I do a great job. But I want to help and I want to change things because they're in really bad shape.
All right, Daniel Cooper. You can find him on X at Cooper for Alaska. Daniel, thank you for coming on board. Folks, we're out of time. Tomorrow, Brad Keithley, Chris Story. Be kind, love one another, live well. All right, Daniel, one final bite here for you. Anything we didn't cover, anything that we should have covered, or anything you want to expand upon here? We got a couple minutes here before I got to let you go.
Sure. I did write early on about revamping the school lunch program here. That's also on the Watchman. I discovered the Japanese model a few months ago, and I think it's wonderful. It's called Kaishoku. Not that we have to adopt the name, but it's good, healthy, locally grown or harvested food. There's nutrition education that comes along with it. It will save the state money in the long term. There's some upfront costs associated with it, but in the long term, it'll save the state money both in schools and probably in healthcare costs as obesity would hopefully decline. Um, and it will also generate more business for local farmers, fisheries, all of those kinds of things. And I think it's a good plan. If people want to check that out, you can just Google Northern Harvest Table and Alaska Watchman, and it should pop right up. And feel free to leave a comment. I'm always open to feedback as well. And yeah, that's That's all I've got
All
for
right.
that.
I posted a link to that story in the chat room. Ditch the frozen nuggets and feed Alaska students from a Northern Harvest table. You could check that out right now. Links are up in the chat room right now. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on board. We appreciate you being part of it. We appreciate you what you write. I think you've got some good writing skills there, and I look forward to hearing more from you. And we'll check back in with you here in a month or so, a couple months, see where you're at, and we'll get some more details.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Michael. I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank you for being part of the show today. Thank you so much. Daniel Cooper, our guest here on the Michael Duke Show. All right. Well, that wraps us up for today, my friends. We are done. Tomorrow is Brad Keithley and Chris Story, and we're going to have that. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk to the Wheelchairs for Warriors founder. On Thursday, we're working on, hopefully, Donna Ardwin, Joe Geldhoff, and then maybe we'll lighten it up on some other stuff as well, and hopefully have a good time there for that. All right. Well, I'm going to go look in the fridge to see if there's any more turkey that I missed. Maybe I can have one more turkey sandwich, and then we'll be back tomorrow. In the meanwhile, you guys be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.